Hello and welcome to our 8th video in this series that is designed to help you pass a high-stakes math test. I'm Dr. Janet Johnson with EdStar Analytics, and in this lesson we're going to go through some examples from a sample ACT test. Okay, and just in case you have math anxiety, I like to start out with a little math joke because it'll alleviate your anxiety. Why did 1/5 go to the masseuse? Because it was 2/10. This is from a McGraw-Hill ACT practice test, and McGraw-Hill has some really good free ACT practice tests. You might want to Google them, and they've got the answers there too. So when you do their practice tests, you can see if you're getting them right. Now here, this problem is all multiplication. Some of the terms have exponents. Because it's all multiplication, we can do things in any order we want. The coefficient, which means the number, is going to be 4 times 3 times 2, which is 24. So it's one of these three. Now, if you don't write in the invisible ones, you might think that it's x cubed, because 3 plus nothing. But remember that those x's that don't have an exponent, they really have an invisible 1. So write them in, and x to the 3 plus 1 is x to the 5th. So now we know it's one of these two, and then y squared times y squared, you add the exponents, y to the 4th. So the answer here is J. And they put H there for all the people that are going to forget about those invisible ones. You know, they know what wrong answer you're going to get, and it's there as a choice. Okay, here in this problem, they are testing to see if you know the difference between multiplying fractions and adding and subtracting. When we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. So this first one here is the same as A over C times B over B. And B over B, of course, is 1, because any number over itself is 1. So this is A over C times 1, essentially. And so it's equivalent to A over C. So we can stop right there. You don't need to see how come these don't work, because this one does work. But I can guarantee you the rest of them, if you worked them out, they do not equal A over C. In this problem, the square brackets are exactly the same as regular parentheses. We just sometimes use square brackets so that it doesn't get confusing if there's too many parentheses in a problem. The A is outside the square brackets, so that means it gets distributed into everything that is inside the square brackets. Those parentheses around the B minus C, they don't play any role at all. They don't need to be there. They're just there to trip you up, actually. So the only thing to do here is take A times everything inside the square brackets, and those parentheses around B minus C are completely irrelevant. They play no role, so they can be dropped. This is going to be AB minus AC plus AD, which is right there, C. C is the right answer. The most common wrong answer is going to be B, because people are going to think that because B minus C is in parentheses, that A just gets multiplied by them, but they're just irrelevant. A is outside the square brackets, so it's times everything inside the square brackets. Don't be tricked. Here we have two fractions to add together, and you know, when you add fractions, you get common denominators, and then you add the numerators. Think of the denominator like denomination, like in money. The coin is the denomination. Denominator is the same root word. If you had 2 nickels plus 1 dime, those are different denominations, so you can't add until you convert the dime to nickels. 2 nickels plus 2 nickels, and then you've got common denominations. And then you add the numerators. The denominator would stay the same. It's the label. So maybe that'll help you know not to add the denominators, which F there is for the people who think you're supposed to add denominators. I think I'll write this one out. Okay, so we're going to get common denominators, and remember, you can multiply anything by 1 anytime you want. and any number over itself is 1. So that's essentially what you're doing when you get common denominators. If we multiply the 2r over 3 by 5 over 5, we'll have a 15 in the denominator, and the other fraction, we multiply it by 3 over 3, and then we'll have 15 in its denominator. And don't do any like where you memorized how you crisscross applesauce, because there's different versions of that for different situations, and it messes people up. Just think of you're multiplying by 1, and you won't get in trouble. Now, I think on the test, you don't need to write any more out. You should be able to figure out what the answer is just from this. The common denominator is 15, so you know that the denominator is 15. Pretty good bet. 3 of the answers have 15, or 4 of them have 15 as the denominator. The numerator is going to be, take the 2r times 5, that's 10r, and the 4s times 3, that's 12s. So 10r plus 12s is the numerator, and the answer is J. And don't make your s's look like 5s, or you could mess yourself up. That was sloppy of me. Okay, we can do a little just logical thinking here on this. Trying to find a minus b, whatever that number is, raised to the 4th. Well, it's because 2 negatives multiplied together always results in a positive number. Negative times negative is positive. So anytime we have an even exponent, the answer is positive. So we know the answer is positive. So it's either F or G. If you're out of time, guess one of those. But this is actually pretty simple to figure out, and I'll write it out to show you. Okay, I started with the b equals a plus 3, and I added negative b to both sides. And I can put that negative b anywhere I want because everything's addition, and addition commutes. So I put it there with the a because I eventually wanted to, I'm going to replace a minus b with whatever number we find that it is. So here the b plus negative b is a 0, and when we add negative 3 to both sides, the 3 plus negative 3 is going to be a 0 and go away on the other side. And then we'll have what we want because we are looking for what is a minus b, but a minus b is the same thing as a plus negative b. So what we can learn from this, you can see here, a plus negative b equals negative 3. So what we've really got here is negative 3 to the 4th. And negative 3 to the 4th, it's going to be positive because there's 4 negative signs when we take negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And that is 9 times 9, which is 81. So the answer is F. Now, when you get good at this and you're confident, you don't need to write out all these steps. But I want you to see that what we do over and over again in math is add the opposite to make something go away. We're the opposite of b, add the opposite of 3 so that we can get things the way we want them. We're adding opposites to make things go away, and we're multiplying by 1 in the form of a fraction over a fraction all the time. That's just the biggest trick in the book. Add zeros, multiply by 1s, and that's how we solve a lot of things. And I just wanted you to see that's what we're doing, that it's not some magical thing that you memorize. We're just moving stuff around. So Google some math practice tests and see what you can do on your own. The McGraw-Hill practice tests are really good. ASVAB has several different practice tests online. There's AccuPlacer practice tests. That's for community college. The placement for math in community college. ACT has its own practice tests. It has 4 or 5 of them. So just see what you can do, and don't be stumped by the ones you can't do, because we have a few more things to cover before you know enough basics to pass one of these. But you should have a very good start. Try to do the ones that involve the things that we have covered, and we are yet to cover graphing lines, the Pythagorean theorem, because that is all over these math tests, graphing parabolas, and not too much more, and you'll be able to pass one of these tests.